this is Sixmix, and today I'm bringing you a new Minecraft video. In this one, I will be showcasing the Godzilla Rising mod for version 1.20.1, developed by TheBigBoss47, hopefully I pronounced that right. This mod brings the Godzilla franchise into Minecraft, adding over 50 unique Kaiju into the game, as well as many new blocks, items, and advancements. I will have a link to the mod in the description of this video. Without further ado, let's get started. As anyone familiar with Godzilla knows, everything begins with the atomic bomb. They are created using several materials that have been added to the mod. To activate them, you have to place it on the ground, then shift and right-click with a nuke remote, and it will have an enchantment glow. Plug in some coordinates, and then press the button, and momentarily, a nuclear blast will be created. Be warned that this will create a large flash of light. Yep, there it is. Oh wow, and it blew up right into a large cave system too. Yeah, so I wasn't expecting it to end up going into a large cave system, but as you can see, it creates a massive crater. Perfect symmetry as well. Well, if it wasn't for the cave generation kind of messing it up. Checking your inventory, you'll notice that you have the unlucky status effect now. If you go into a village with that status effect, you'll feel the ground shake and the king of the monsters will appear. With vanilla equipment, you have no hope of beating him. Currently, I have a mod that allows you to see the health of different entities, and not only does Godzilla, if he'll stay still so I can show you, not only does he have over 10,000 health points, he has a ton of armor. Just look at it above him. It doesn't even come close to fitting in the little box showing his health bar. He will destroy the village, coming in waves. He destroys nearby blocks and fires his atomic breath, pretty much instantly killing any normal mobs. And that model, it is so good. It does the dorsal plates better than many of the actual Godzilla movies. To put a stop to Godzilla's rampage, you will need an oxygen destroyer, which you can get resources for in a lab, a structure that naturally generates in this mod. Place it down, and use flint and steel to detonate it. It'll destroy all nearby life, killing all sorts of different mobs and putting an end to Godzilla's rampage. Or well, it should, although it seems like his health still stays up pretty high. Not sure if that's a bug or if I'm just using it wrong. There isn't too much documentation on it. When you've defeated Godzilla, you will receive many G-cells and bones, which are crafting ingredients. You can put the G-cells into an extractor block, which will give you Godzilla DNA. With that, you can create a G-sword, which is incredibly powerful. The G-sword does 250 damage, which, to put into perspective, is enough to kill the Wither boss in just 2 hits. Beyond that, there are many Kaiju that can be found in this mod. They behave mostly the same, having a ton of health, dealing lots of damage, and destroying the terrain. Some have ranged attacks, while others do not. I'll go over them one at a time based on the order in which they debut in the movies. First, we have the original Godzilla, who made his theatrical debut exactly 71 years before this video was uploaded. I remember that when I first got into the Godzilla franchise as a middle schooler, I got the 1954 film as a present for Christmas. When I watched it, I found it to be a good monster flick, but apart from being the original, I wasn't really sure why it was often regarded as being the best. Several years later, when I was either in high school or early college, I rewatched the movie, but in the original Japanese cut, and was amazed by how captivating the story and themes were in their original form. In general, with the early movies, the English dubbed versions tend to change up certain parts of the story, like in Godzilla Raids Again, where Godzilla is referred to as Gigantus the Fire Monster. That was just ridiculous. Speaking of which, we have the next Godzilla incarnation from Godzilla Raids Again. as well as his opponent, Anguirus. I love the way he rolls around, by the way. Just like in the movie, these guys do not like each other. And just like in the movie, Godzilla triumphs. King Kong is a fairly basic melee fighter who has a moderate amount of power. But if he's struck by lightning, he becomes bigger and stronger. His face may look kinda silly, but when you see how he looked in the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, yeah, this looks 100 times more intimidating than that. There's Mothra, probably Toho's most famous monster aside from Godzilla. In larva form, she's pretty weak. We'll cover her main form a bit later. There's Kumonga, I think I pronounced that right, whose model I actually really like. Looks really well detailed, and the movement is so good. And then after that is Jet Jaguar. This version is based off of the Godzilla Singular Point series, but since he's the only kaiju from Singular Point in the mod, I figured I'd just list it earlier rather than towards the end. Here we have the next iteration of the Big G himself. This is technically the same Godzilla as the 1955 one we looked at, but I'm guessing that this mob is modeled after his design in Godzilla vs. Megalon. Ooh, he's going after that dude. Not even a contest. And then we get to the last of the original era of kaiju. There's the classic Mechagodzilla, which looks amazing. The texture really helps make it fit in with the Minecraft's art style, and the animation looks great. There's also Black Mechagodzilla. Now this is the really obscure stuff that I live for. This guy was part of a 90s Godzilla TV series that was never given an official English release until just a couple years ago. He's pretty weak, but just the fact that he exists in this mod is legendary. So now we move on to the Heisei era of Godzilla, which lasted between 1984 and 1995. This is the era in which the main Godzilla we looked at earlier comes from, as it is possibly his most recognizable design. I'm sad that this mod doesn't have Biollante yet, since she's one of my favorites and to me has the coolest design of any of Godzilla's enemies. I've been waiting for her to return to the big screen for years and hope it happens one day before I'm a senior citizen. King Ghidorah is Godzilla's ultimate rival, the enemy that he has fought countless times over the years. The Heisei incarnation is one of the tallest monsters in any Godzilla movie, and he is very destructive to say the least. After him is the Heisei incarnation of Mothra. Her larva form is similar to the one that we saw earlier. It hatches from an egg that can be found in one of the structures in the mod. Eventually, it will transform into Mothra's butterfly form, which is able to fly. Opposite to Mothra is Batra, who, I have to say, looks so good in this mod. I really love the way the wings look, too. Rodan is pretty small in this mod, but has a very big ability that you'll find out about shortly. Space Godzilla was one of the strongest monsters that Godzilla ever faced, so it makes sense that his Minecraft equivalent is incredibly powerful. When his health is low, he will put up a shield that absorbs damage and allows him to regain health. Once the shield is broken, you can take him out normally. Rodan has the ability to locate a nearby Godzilla and sacrifice himself, transforming it into Burning Godzilla, where Godzilla becomes more powerful than ever before. Any nearby entity will be set on fire just by being even close to him. And he can occasionally emit a pulse attack that you just saw, which does tons of damage. He has even more armor than his base form, so defeating him will take quite a lot. Once defeated, he will die in a gigantic nuclear explosion. which of course will blind you again. Yeah, that is a huge crater. Godzilla's son actually appears in this mod too. He's pretty small and not that strong, but just him being in here is really nice. After that is a monster known as Desultroya, who is possibly the strongest of Godzilla's foes across all the live-action movies. And I'd like to just put it out there, Godzilla vs. Desultroya has to be my favorite of all the Godzilla films. To me, it was the perfect send-off to a great era of movies. In 1998, TriStar produced a movie that was called Godzilla. It did not get the warmest of receptions, and many fans hated it for taking away many of Godzilla's most recognizable traits. Perhaps that is why that movie's monster, known as Zilla in this mod, is incredibly weak compared to the rest of the kaiju. Moving on to the new Millennium, we start off with Godzilla 2000, a pretty good design from a pretty good movie. Even though I'm someone who avoids English-dubbed Godzilla movies when I can, Godzilla 2000 Millennium is the only movie in the franchise where I think the dub is actually better. The dub cast does a pretty good job, all things considered, and they make the dialogue deliberately more campy, which I think actually works in the movie's favor. Above all, I prefer the dub because of the sound editing. They replaced the movie's pretty forgettable original soundtrack with music from the classic films, and even changed the roar of Orga, Godzilla's opponent, to sound so much better than the stock roar that was used in the original Japanese cut. It really does add a lot to the experience. The Godzilla from GMK, short for Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, is very powerful. His atomic breath creates small nuclear explosions. I'm not sure if it's a bug or an intended feature, but he appears to be immune to the G-Sword. He's not immune to bows and other conventional weapons, such as even just a regular diamond sword. And on the topic of GMK, I think it's kinda ridiculous how my boy Baragon is always treated. He's the most adorable kaiju ever, and every single time he gets done dirty. In Destroy All Monsters, he only gets a brief cameo appearance. In GMK, he wasn't even included in the title of the movie, and in this mod, he's completely absent. Nobody seems to love poor old Baragon. The 2002 version of Godzilla makes an appearance in the mod, and looks pretty similar to Godzilla 2000, though closer to the monster's traditional image, with charcoal skin and less colorful dorsal plates. In this mod, you can create your own Mechagodzilla, known as Kiryu. There are two that are loyal to the player, and then one that is dangerous and will go on a rampage. Zilla made his big screen return in 2004 once Toho got the rights for TriStar's Godzilla design. In that movie, the real Godzilla proceeded to absolutely decimate him in what I consider to be the funniest moment in the entire franchise. It would be so cool if Sum 41 started playing when you encounter him in this mod. Shin Godzilla is pretty interesting, as he starts off in a smaller form and over time will evolve into a full Godzilla. That blood animation is so cool. In his final form, he's far bigger, and he has a very noticeably large tail. His final form gives him an incredible atomic breath ability. That is amazing. This next Godzilla comes from the anime trilogy of Godzilla movies. He's basically just Godzilla but blue. Then we have Godzilla Earth, who dwarfs any other Godzilla monster. And if you think that this is big, keep in mind that the kaiju in this mod are scaled down quite a bit to fit the game's environment. In the movie, Godzilla Earth is over 10 times this size. And so now we finally get to Godzilla -1, one of the most acclaimed entries in the series. Initially, you may encounter an island with this monster on it. On its own, it's not too powerful, but once it's irradiated, it becomes full Godzilla size. having tons of armor and very fast regeneration. It's one of the most difficult ones to take down in this mod. Beyond that, there are a few more unsorted kaiju. There's Zilla Jr., who... Whoa, that was actually pretty cool, that implosion. There's a kinda broken 70th anniversary Godzilla. Snow Godzilla, who made a random appearance in an anime movie. And Shin Desultroya. And now, before I wrap up the video, let's check out some of the weapons added by the mod. There's the Ghidorah staff, which will strike down lightning on foes. There's a sniper rifle, which can shoot enemies from afar, dealing tons of damage. There's a tank. A portable maser cannon, which, when held down, will shoot down very powerful beams of energy. And a Mothra totem, which is similar to the totem of Undying, giving health boosts too and regeneration. There are B2 bombs, which will come raining down from the sky. With the right materials, you can create a rocket and blast off into space. You'll land on Planet X, where you'll see yourself surrounded by countless aliens and Ghidorahs. It's a very dangerous place, to say the least. There are also a few music discs, though I won't be playing them in this video due to copyright reasons. And that's just about everything. I hope you were able to enjoy this mod showcase. As said before, links to the mod are in the description below. Thanks for watching, keep on rockin'.